Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Strange Days True Crime, where we look at stories of unsolved disappearances, murders, and unidentified in the hopes that one day they'll be solved. The strange unsolved disappearance of Sherry Corrigal. May 14th of 2001, Sherry Corrigal was born. Sherry did not have an easy upbringing and suffered a lot of trauma. Sherry spent a lot of time as a child moving from house to house and place to place, as Sherry's family didn't have much money. At the age of 13, Sherry and a younger sibling were removed from their mother's care and placed into foster care. When Sherry and her sibling were placed into foster care, there was not much information on them, and their foster mother, Jamie Easterbrook, would spend the next few months getting them in to see dentists and other needs that came along. Along with medical care, Sherry's foster mother, Jamie, would enroll the pair in school, as they had not been attending any school at the time of their placement. Once in the public school system, Sherry made friends quickly. Jamie stated that Sherry was funny, had a great sense of humor, was beautiful and cheeky. Sherry also loved doing her hair and makeup, and shopping was a love of Sherry's, which was something Sherry and her foster mom Jamie would do together, as well as baking. Sherry cared about animals and people and had plans for her future. One of Sherry's best friends was Michaela Chang, but in the summer of 2016, Michaela would meet an older man who was 58-year-old Stephen Bacon. The relationship between Michaela and Stephen was that of a father and daughter, and Sherry would also spend time with Stephen and Michaela. Jamie was not fond of Stephen and did not like the idea of Sherry hanging around him. Michaela would go missing a few weeks after her 16th birthday in March of 2017. Sherry and her foster mother Jamie would aid in the search for Michaela, even though Michaela and Sherry had began to drift apart before her disappearance. Michaela's body would not be found until a few months later, on May 18th of 2017. Michaela had been murdered by Stephen Bacon. Stephen admitted to killing Michaela and pled guilty. In April of 2023, Stephen was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole for 20 years. It wasn't made public until after his arrest that Stephen had charges going back to the 90s in Ontario, Canada, for sexual assault, sexual exploitation, sexual interference of a minor, and incest. Even though Sherry's childhood was not ideal, Sherry pushed through and did her best, and would live with Jamie for a few years. Sherry's biological mother would be granted custody of both Sherry and her younger sibling. But Sherry did not want to go. Sherry wanted to stay with Jamie. Sherry would end up leaving her mother's, as the living conditions were not ideal, and would stay at friends' houses and even at one of her ex-boyfriend's mother's home. Sherry would end up back in foster care and would ask Jamie if she could stay with her. Unfortunately, Jamie had other foster kids in her care at the time and had no room for Sherry. Jamie's mother was also a foster parent at the time, and Sherry would end up staying with Jamie's mother. But once more, Sherry was placed back in the care of her biological mother around the age of 15. Jamie would remain in close contact with Sherry until Sherry was around 19 and the pair drifted a little. Sherry had older brothers, but was not close with them, and there had been accusations of abuse, and Sherry didn't really have any family support. When Sherry was around 20 years old, she began to use marijuana and drinking, and when possible, Jamie did what she could to continue helping Sherry get her life together. In 2023, Jamie and Sherry would try to meet up on a few occasions, as Jamie had a birthday present she wanted to give Sherry. Over a few months, Jamie and Sherry messaged back and forth about getting together, but never did. September of 2023, Jamie continued to contact Sherry, but Jamie's messages began to go unanswered. Jamie found this strange, as Sherry would always answer Jamie's messages within a few hours. Sherry would change phone numbers often, as her phone would get stolen or she would lose it, and had 4 or 5 different Facebook accounts, so Jamie would often message Sherry through Facebook. Jamie began to think that Sherry was using drugs, and that's why Sherry was avoiding her, as Sherry knew that Jamie didn't approve of her using drugs, and that was possibly why Sherry was not responding to Jamie. However, Jamie thought Sherry may still be in contact with others. What Jamie didn't realize was that no one had been in contact or heard from Sherry. Around November 11th, one of Sherry's ex-boyfriends, Brandon Brown, had posted on one of Sherry's Facebook accounts asking if anyone had seen Sherry. Jamie would reach out to Brandon, whom Jamie did not know, and he had stated that he had been in contact with Sherry on a daily basis up until a couple months ago. So he had become worried about Sherry, and that was when he posted on her Facebook page. It was at this point that Jamie knew something wasn't right and would report Sherry missing and began searching for Sherry, making posters and cards and placing them around town, as well as contacting the media. Jamie would give what information she had about Sherry to police, including her last known phone number and all of her social media accounts. Jamie would contact Brandon again, and the pair have spoken a lot about Sherry's disappearance, trying to figure out where Sherry could be. Some of the residents in town believe that Brandon may have had something to do with Sherry's disappearance, as it seemed Brandon was the last person to have seen or had contact with Sherry. Jamie, however, does not think that Brandon was the last person to see Sherry before she disappeared, or had anything to do with Sherry going missing. Brandon had stated that on September 11th, he had picked Sherry up from a man's home in Parksville, where Sherry had been staying at the time. Parksville is approximately 1 hour north of Nanaimo, BC. It was stated that the man whose home Sherry had been staying at was very controlling of Sherry and did not allow Sherry to talk with anyone or use her phone. It was stated that Brandon dropped Sherry off near the Franklin Street and Selby Street area in downtown Nanaimo, BC, where there is a homeless camp nearby, at around 6:45 p.m. on September 11th of 2023. Brandon also stated that he and Sherry had made plans for the next day. Brandon had told Jamie that he had dropped Sherry off at a casino nearby, and Jamie believes that he may have just drove by the casino as it is in the area. There is a safe injection site near this area as well, and Jamie, along with Brandon and a few others, would go there asking people there if anyone had seen Sherry, and some had stated that they had in fact seen Sherry the day after Brandon had dropped Sherry off. It is believed that Sherry was last seen in mid-September of that year, but was not reported missing until November of 2023. There had been no activity on Sherry's social media or bank account, and Sherry had not picked up any of her checks. Sherry also did not have a permanent residence and would stay with others and sometimes in tents. It is unknown if search and rescue or police conducted a search for Sherry when she was first reported missing. However, Jamie and others have set out on their own to look for Sherry. Cindy Hall, who was also an advocate for murdered and missing Indigenous women, and also for missing Lisa Young, who was another young woman who went missing in the Nanaimo area in June of 2022, has become an advocate for Sherry's case as well. Cindy has helped set up and aid in the searches for Sherry. However, Sherry has still not been found. There have been many rumors circulating about what may have happened to Sherry, but there has been some more believable talk about who or what may have happened to Sherry. One such rumor in particular that has not been confirmed was that two men, whom are believed to be brothers and have a long criminal history and have a lot of influence in the streets and community, had something to do with Sherry's disappearance. The rumor states that Sherry may have crossed paths with these two men, and they ended up taking her life over drugs. Sherry was then disposed of, but once the media started reporting on Sherry's disappearance, her body was moved to a second location. Unfortunately, the group of people that Sherry was hanging around with at the time of her disappearance are the kind that are not willing to talk to police. Jamie does not believe that Sherry is still alive. With the time that has passed, the lifestyle she was leading, and the rumors that are circulating around town, Jamie also believes there are several people who know what happened to Sherry and wants them to come forward with information. Jamie also believes that one of Sherry's good friends knows what happened as well, but is not wanting to talk. The investigation into Sherry's disappearance is still active and moving forward. Investigators are following leads as they come in and reviewing CCTV footage and interviewing witnesses. Police also say it is out of character for Sherry to disappear and say it is suspicious and troubling. In July of 2024, a search was conducted in the McKay Lake area west of Cedar after many rumors about the area came to light. Jamie Easterbrook and Cindy Hall, along with friends and strangers, came to help search. RCMP would also send out a handful of their members to aid in the search for Sherry, but Sherry was not found. At the time of Sherry's disappearance, she was 22 years old, about 5 feet to 5 foot 2 inches tall, weighing around 90 pounds, with long, dark, reddish-brown hair and blue eyes. Sherry has a few tattoos, a spider on her upper back, along with a sunflower and Jacob on her right shoulder blade, and a moon on her right forearm. Sherry was last seen in mid-September of 2023 in downtown Nanaimo, British Columbia. Jamie has set up a Facebook page called Finding Sherry Corrigal. If you have any information on Sherry's case, please contact the Nanaimo RCMP at 250-754-2345, file number 2023-39145, and help bring Sherry home. That's it for this case. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for more stories of these strange days we live in.